And oh, great. Yeah. So welcome back to those who were with us for the first little while, and welcome to new folks who are joining us. For those of you who met me earlier, I'm still Granka Vukovic, one of the co-chairs of the planning table, and really excited to introduce our next segment. So our next half hour we'll be spending with Smart Waterloo Region Innovation Lab. They are certainly not, they're familiar to many of us, and really excited to hear from Grayson Bass, who's managing that lab, and from Saba, who we met in the last segment, to hear about all of the great work that you're doing. So welcome, Grayson, and welcome back, Saba. Over to you, Grayson.
Oh, thank you so much. I caught a little bit of what Saba was presenting. And for anybody who wants to know how we can do what we do and why our lab has been able to win awards already and how we've been so productive, the quick and easy answer is you should just always hire people that are smarter and better at what they do than you are. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to find Saba through the CYPT network. And Jameek Beckford as well, who I'll present a little bit about what he's doing today, just because he's off doing what we do really well, which is youth engagement and doing innovation work. So Saba, I don't know how we want to go through this about SWRIL yet. Why don't we just go ahead and keep skipping ahead? Just quickly, I think most of you are aware that this came out of the Smart Cities Challenge. And the idea was to create the best community for children and youth. I really think that this is a mission that we're moving forward and that we have a lot of evidence. And more importantly, this is something that has really been driven by CYPT in really meaningful ways. I mean, the fingerprints of CYPT are all over the lab and the work we do in terms of how we prioritize what projects we're doing, how we determine if these are things that we should keep to follow, and how we partner and use all the relationships in this network to make things happen. So I think you can go to the next slide, Saba, if you don't mind there. Before I turn it over to Saba, I just want to say the challenge that we have as a lab is not limited to the ideas that we have or to the ability to effectively engage with children and youth. It really is how we spend time and work on breaking down existing structures, the ones that all of us benefit from, the ones that some of us have created, the ones that are in place for seemingly really good reasons, but for whatever reasons, we're really holding on to these. And part of how we define innovation here is innovation is something that you're really good at, plus something that you've never done or never thought about. And those two things together should create some form of value. I think that we're really good at doing that, and I think that we're really good at being able to teach that. So I would like to, as I do, I think at every time I'm fortunate enough to be asked to speak with all of you, anyone who is interested in learning about innovation, we want to train you. We want to at least give you and your team, if nothing else, just a 2 to 3 hour session about what innovation is and how we can do it and how to perceive that, because that is our language of transformation in this community. This is something that we're doing directly with children and youth through the Jimmy Impact. And this is what is really empowering and driving that youth-led transformation. And I think if we can all do that, and given all the myriad of challenges that we face in terms of financing, social and political change, this is something that I truly believe will be helpful for you and for your teams. And we do it, there's no cost. We're trying to work where we can actually provide a certification along with Jimmy, the same version that we're providing with the kids, which again, I'll talk about later. But if nothing else, I would love to be able to do that, and I'll come to you. We don't have to come to our place at Communitech, although we do provide free coffee and snacks, but I'm happy to come to all of you and do that as well. lastly, before I turn it over to Saba to go and speak more about all the cool stuff that she's doing, I just kind of want to leave you with this idea that compassion is innovation. There are some things that we're looking at the lab on trying to measure these kind of touchy-feely things, which are actually the most important things. That includes around how we look at belonging, how we drive innovation, and kind of what impacts data has on society as well. But if you don't remember anything else, and I'm sure most of you who have ever spent more than 5 minutes with me will have already heard this, compassion is innovation. This is a fundamental aspect of reality. And the more that we realize, and I always think about Gorenka when I think about this, because I was listening the other day to the radio about how, even at 18 months, a child will help an adult reach for something just because they recognize that they need help. And this was actually in the context of how do we design robots and AI that's helpful in a way that doesn't get in the way of human activity, but is also has this ability to actually care for each other. And I think that if compassion is innovation, then it should hold that the network of CYPT together and making a pact to actually drive and actually complete this change to make this the best community for children and youth is 100% possible, and that we have the foundation and the ability to do that. So I'd like to turn it over to Saba and say about some of the cool stuff that she's doing in the lab. And then I want to brag on Jameeks about what he's doing as well. Over to you, Saba.
Great. Thank you, Grayson. So I'm going to talk about a couple of projects that we're currently either working on are in midst of development, or we just started and we're going to work on it. So I don't have anything to demo it. So the AI chatbot, obviously I talked about it in the last session. Everyone is familiar about it. So I'm not going to go into too much details. But again, the goal was to make it more accessible for folks who actually access resources, regardless of their language barrier, regardless of anything that could prevent them from accessing it.
Saba, if I could just interrupt for a minute, sorry. So there could be some people on this call who were not in the meeting, in the prior meeting. And so they, not that you need to repeat yourself, but they will be able to access the recording from the previous meeting to learn about the AI chatbot. And that recording will be on the Children and Youth Planning Table website.
Perfect.
Sorry,
and
sorry to interrupt.
This one, no, that's all good. And I'll share this with Allison so this can also be circulated if you like that. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so the second project that I want to highlight is called Impact Map. One of the main reasons we came up with this idea is that a lot of folks are doing great mapping projects. However, there's a lot of silos that are happening. And I think I'm a firm believer that if you can't search what you don't know. So if you don't know about something, you don't know what to search for to find it. So I feel like if everyone's doing these cool projects, let's just bring them in one place, just like Family Compass is doing it. Like everyone can be on that list, everyone can access it, everyone can search for services rather than individually going, especially if they're newcomers and if they don't know. We also acknowledge that for mapping, there are two ways to map things. Either one, you have a team to do it. Like for example, we have the GIS team that they do amazing mapping, but other times you just want to map things, but you don't really have the tools, or you don't have that subscription to ArcGIS, for example, to the software, or you don't have this person who does the mapping. So again, as I want to keep mentioning, one of the things we want to really focus on with whatever we're creating is just making it more accessible to anyone regardless of their background. So that's where our impact map came in. We just wanted to, again, bring everyone in one place, not saying you have to use our platform, not saying anything about that. It's more so, if you do some cool stuff, can you just upload your data set here and it will automatically map it. That way, anyone else, if they want to like look at that and utilize that resource, that would be very useful to them. So again, we wanted to make sure it's very a place that you can visualize everything in one place, and depending on what you want to visualize, for example, each layer you can turn on and off, which I'm going to do a demo of it. And with that in mind, that can actually be used for asset mapping. So what that means is, like, if you are trying to look for example, if the belonging score is low in certain areas in the community, we can put a couple of layers of interest, like turn on a couple of layers of interest and seeing, hey, is there transportation in there? Is there community services there? Is there childcare services there? Is there school there? Just to visually see what's going on in that area. And then that will give you some like questions that you can further dive deep into. So it's just like a first stop for you to basically come up with some clues, if I might say that. So I'm going to do a demo of this. And to highlight this, again, we are very keen on getting user feedback, especially from children and youth. So the first phase of development for this was done. I have done multiple user studies, which means I brought people together, asked them, hey, can you go through this and can you answer a couple of questions for me to better understand your experience of using this, with the hope that we can make it a lot better and more user-friendly. That's the phrase I'm going to keep throwing here and there, which means it's easy to navigate without me giving you directions. So we did user testing with a lot of folks at the region, community organization, but also more than like 100 children and youth. So we got a lot of feedback from them, and it was cool to get their feedback because we also asked, like, what features would you add in the future? And obviously with the world of 3D and oh my goodness, virtual reality, that's what I was trying to say, coming up, they all wanted to have the ability to add that as a feature, which again, it's possible with the system we're building. So as I mentioned, this tool is for asset mapping. And I talked about how if you have done the mapping, there's an easy way to just import your data set here. So if you have that Excel sheet or whatever CSV, whatever file it is that folks have used it to map it, if you just drop it here, you can literally see it on the map. It's very easy to upload, super easy. Again, if you can't do that, if you don't have access to those tools, then we have this opportunity for you to actually create your own layer. So you can still do the same thing without having to pay for the software or having to hire a specialized person. And this is, again, important as to what you want to do. Now, going back with the asset mapping, when I said about the layers, for example, if I want to highlight a couple of layers, I can just turn them on and off. So in here, I wanted to look at the census area. If I wanted to know the transit spots, I can do that. And if I zoom in, obviously it will get more in detail. If I care about parks, I can turn that on. It can look super crazy, super fast, depending on what you're trying to layer on. So obviously I'm layering on just random things right now, but then eventually if you want to layer on what you're looking for, then that would be something you can look into. So this childcare center, I actually uploaded that from the region of Waterloo open data source. So again, when you have access to this slideshow, you're more than welcome to go and play around with it. You're not going to break the system. It's all good. We're changing things in the future anyway. And you can actually upload a couple of data sets from the region of Waterloo or even your own data set and play around with it. And if you ever have any feedback or want to chat about it, you're more than welcome to reach to us. And again, because it was from the region of the Waterloo. These are the fields they were looking for. So again, this can change. Again, I want to highlight that we're not the data people, we're the tool to visualize data, to utilize data. So the data and what's in there, that's something that needs to be just done separately. Another cool feature we wanted to add is some of you guys may have heard about 15-minute community neighborhoods. Obviously that's ableism, so we're not going with that concept fully. The way we're approaching it is that you can change the time depending on what you want, and you can change the travel mode depending on what you want to go for. So if I'm walking from, for example, this bus stop, I can say, hey, how far can I go within that 15 minutes? So for example, if you're hosting an event, you want to make sure you're as inclusive as possible. You're making sure it's close to your location, but also to certain areas that you care about. For example, parks, for example, transit spots, things like that. And then within that area, all the items within that layers that you turned on previously will come here. Again, we heard a lot of feedback, good feedback, that this wasn't super user friendly, this wasn't visually, it could have been better. There's a lot to improve, and we know that, and we're going to work on it. But this was just the first phase of our development, meaning the first way to tackle the issue. So that's pretty much for that's pretty much for the impact map. So imagine in the future, what we're envisioning is that you can either go through it, either access asset mapping or access resources. And if you're going with access resources, then you have that chatbot in there. So you can actually utilize that chatbot to go and find you the places. So we're combining all of the tools we're building separately together in the future. When you're going with asset mapping, obviously then we would have to look at tier system and authority, I guess, different levels of authority, right? So for example, if you're an organization, you have certain access. If you're a regional employee, you have certain access. If you're just a community member, you have certain access. Because we do want to make sure these layers don't go out of hand either. So we do have some like steps that we're going to take in the future to make it a little bit easier for people to navigate through. All right, so that was, so possible case uses was asset mapping, which I mentioned, and accessing resources for the impact map. Another project that we're working on, it's called Data Playground. This one is a little bit more difficult in a sense that it's using a lot of tech forward tools that are not often used at the moment. And this is where our innovation is pushing the boundaries for sure, I can tell you that. So the problem that we have with the currently happening with anything related to data is that every time we're collecting data, storing it or sharing it, it's often not done with the intention of keeping the user or the person informed at all times. So what we're trying to do is sort of securely store an information and make sure the transfer of information from person A to person B is as transparent as possible. So the original person who owns the data knows what's going on and knows where their data is going. So that's like in a nutshell what we're trying to do. The way we are using it, it's a lot of technical term. It just means we're using a different technology that we've never used before at all, honestly, not within the region. So this is very innovative as what we're trying to do. It uses, if you're interested and you want to learn more about it, it's called Web 3.0 platform and blockchain technology. So those are the tools we're using to make sure we're very secure and transparent for data storage and sharing, with the, again, intention of bringing the users at the core and making sure they're informed at all time. And if they like to share an information, they can revoke the access from you accessing that information if they wish to do that in the future. So for this, I don't have anything to demo just because we're almost at the end of the development phase. I can demo it in the future. The case use we're doing it right now, it's very simple. It's not a crazy thing that we're doing because we're just testing the technology and see if it works. The way it is that individuals, families can sign up their children for a program. So it's A to B. And let's say they sign up 4 kids, they can give consent in the future to share the same information if they're re-signing up for a program. So that makes it a lot easier for signing up one form at a time at all times. And then making it easier for also the organization to share the information to their funders. So at the end, individual is going to be informed about their information going to the funders, but also no personal information is being shared. All the demographic information, all the surveys, whatever that the organization normally share with other funders or other organization, that will be sort of downloadable in a document and can be shared to the funders. So it sort of reduces your workload a little bit more. Again, we're not doing a crazy case use. We're just doing it. Again, we just want to take the burden off everyone's shoulder a little bit as much as possible. That's all we're trying to do, but with a little bit of sprinkle of using technology and more creative ways to do so. So efficient sign-up system. So again, as I mentioned, if you want to share your information in the future, you don't have to redo the same form over and over. You can just say, hey, you already have this information, you're all good. If there's new information, I could share that with you. And if you want to share sensitive information, for example, your driver's license or social security number, then that's a good platform for doing that. But again, for that, we're going to take a lot of measures to make sure it's as secure as possible. Like currently we are following privacy laws, not just in Canada, because I don't think Canada has the best privacy laws, but also from Europe. And in the future, obviously, we want to make sure we get a consultant to make sure this is as secure as possible. And again, the biggest thing is just giving data ownership back to the users. So imagine even this can be utilized in any other system, even in healthcare and anything else. It's just making sure they know what is going on with their data. That's what we're trying to do. The last one I'm going to talk about is the AI translation. As I mentioned in the previous session, we know that the current system isn't doing a great job, especially with translating languages that are not commonly used within the region or just not commonly used in general. So we're trying to sort of see what everyone has done. So we're doing a full-on research on what is going on and who is doing what, with the hope that potentially we can change the data that the model is being trained on with, for example, poetry, movie script, reviews, articles, things like that, just different ways of different data sets. In addition to our own model, with the hope that if we combine it, it will give a better performance as compared to other current translation tools. Again, we want to make sure once we're done this, we bring the translators, like actual human translator, to verify this. And then obviously because of that, it's going to be a lot of upfront cost, but eventually that will be cost effective in the future, because then if you have that ready and done, then you can just utilize it for the future. And if you want to translate anything, again, as I mentioned, grants or programs and services, you can definitely do so.
Saba?
Yeah.
I think we're at time. Do you mind if I come in really quickly and just kind of close out and share some of what Jameeks and his crew are doing?
Thank you. We're going to give you 2 more minutes, Grayson.
I need 2 minutes
Sorry.
just to amaze
Okay.
everybody with what
Sorry.
Saba, you want to
Yeah.
like jump to the next slide real quick? So Jameeks is not here because he's actually with the school board as they're presenting kind of the final projects for the Jimmy Impact program. And this has been such an incredible tool for us because it's allowed us to work with all 3 school boards. We're with the Catholic board, and that's going to expand to one of the elementary schools, with the French Catholic, which they have done some absolutely incredible work, and of course with the public board. This program allows us to take in ideas and to engage directly with youth, hear exactly how they want to see the community look around social and community innovations, and then we provide startup small scale funding so that they can do these projects. I cannot tell you how incredible this is, and I'll just share just one story to kind of let you know what this has been as an impact. One of the teachers shared that they have a student who's very shy, wears a mask every day, and the night before they were supposed to present, the father calls and says, "Hey, I don't think that this is going to work. My son's very nervous. This is not a good thing." And the teacher says, "Well, they have a good project. Just, let them come. They worked on it, for the whole semester. Please just, have him come." So they go, and what Jameeks and his team did is that they put golden tickets inside the little boxes. So the ideas that were the best that were going to move to the next one, they had candy inside all the boxes because there was a sweet idea. And then they had golden tickets. Well, this child, his group was one of the ones that won. And of course, they were all jumping down and everyone was celebrating when they got the golden ticket. The teacher told me that this child was wearing the medal around their chest. The mask was off, was speaking to all the different people, and has done so for the last month and a half since that they won that golden ticket. And we get to see this happen every day. So this is the type of engagement that we're doing. That's over 2,000 youth that have been impacted this way. And we are going to expand and continue to do that. So I just wanted to share that quick story to say what amazing work Jameeks has done. And if you have not had a chance to engage with him, anyone in the CYPT, please do so. If you were impressed with what Saba is doing, you're going to be equally impressed by what Jameeks is doing. They are a pair that is doing incredible work in this community, and they are actually leading this transformation. So I would just encourage you to come, invite yourself to the lab, invite yourself to spend time with Jameeks. What is happening with our youth engagement is absolutely incredible. So I'd just like to thank everybody, and I'll wrap up now. That was 2-ish minutes.
Pretty great. Thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation, Saba. Thanks for providing us with information about the great work that you're doing. We look forward to your second project's demonstration, perhaps the next time we get together. And Grayson, perhaps the next time we get together, we can hear a little bit more about Jameek's work as well. So thanks, everyone. And you've got another 2-minute break before our next session. And we will see you at 10:30 to hear about our program level shared measurement updates. Thank you.